It's becoming very obvious that government needs more revenue in the face of the daunting economic challenges and the fact that the government is under pressure to deliver the dividends of democracy to the populace. Against this background, we have a guest in the studio, the man that is at the helm of affairs when you talk about revenue generation, the number one taxman in Nigeria, the number one taxman in Africa, Babatunde Fowler. What would you say are the components of the Nigerian tax system?
We do have two major categories of revenue. We have revenue from the oil sector, and we have what we call the non-oil tax revenue. On the oil tax revenue, we do not get any cost of collection. I think mainly because it's beyond our control, and it's dependent on the number of barrels of oil that are produced and sold, and also the international price of oil. What we do in that area is that we also monitor to ensure that adequate taxes are being paid, which we have done. And we've also highlighted to government outstanding taxes that are due on the oil revenue. However, on the non-oil revenue, which I can call it almost absolute control on, of course, during the period it has grown significantly. In 2018, as a combined revenue figure, we generated the highest revenue in the history of the country, which was at 5.32 trillion. And out of that, 53.7% was from the non-oil sector. Also during that same period, the VAT hit 1.1 trillion, the highest. And of course, stamp duty was the highest. So if you look at the figures in the non-oil sector, which we have control on, certainly revenues were much higher.
Let us compare the period prior to your assumption of office to the period under your watch. Would you say you did better?
Well, of course. The initial period, oil revenue accounted, if I remember right, for about 59% of the revenue. And of course, now the oil sector is accounting for 46%. So certainly, we're doing much better. And of course, in absolute terms, the amount generated from CIT, corporate income tax, the amount generated from VAT, the amount generated from stamp duty during the period was certainly higher than the amounts generated during that period. The only difference was that the oil revenue during that period was higher than the oil revenue during this latter period, which of course is beyond our control. It has to do with the number of barrels of oil produced and sold, and of course international market rates. During that 3-year period, on a global budget basis, we were able to achieve 80% of budget.
What would you attribute your success to?
First of all, we do have tremendous support, political will from the presidency, which enables us to carry out our functions without interference. And then second, of course, we can say that we have deployed technology whereby we can, for once, say we have what we call a consolidated tax database for the whole country, which has all individuals and all corporate tax payers in it. Those who are not registered are out of that tax box. And that's why we came up with an enforcement strategy, which is popularly known in the media as the lien on bank accounts. We have over 40,000 of those that we put liens on. Those that had banking turnover of a minimum of 100 million per annum for 3 years, and those that had a minimum of 1 billion naira banking turnover.
1 billion?
Yes.
And they are not filing returns?
Not filing returns. Not paying. But out of that, over 40,000 plus, 3,000 of them have paid over 82 billion to the government coffers in the last 60 days. And I believe that with the information that we did put in the papers on Monday and Tuesday, which is a link, so those who have their accounts on lien can click a button and see that their accounts have been put on a hold by government. And also we let them understand what the law basically says, or the act says that if you own a company, or you're a principal officer, a chairman, a director, a manager, a secretary of that company that's owing taxes, it will be deemed as if you yourself personally owe those taxes. And we have published it to let people understand that if they don't come forward, that we will be going after them in their personal capacities.